Hello everybody, welcome to Review a Day episode number 57 for Wednesday, October the 8th, 2008. Hello everybody, welcome to Review a Day, the daily video blog where I review a movie 7 days a week. My name is Leland Brungart and thank you very much for joining me. The film I'm going to review today is The Happening. This movie is written, produced, and directed by M. Night Shyamalan of The Sixth Sense, Signs, Unbreakable, Lady in the Water, The Village. We've done some great movies, some not so hot ones, but, starring Mark Wahlberg, Zooey Deschanel, and John Leguizamo. This movie is about like a virus or some sort of something happens, The Happening, it happens. It starts in New York City where basically people are walking and they freeze, and they kind of like walk backwards, and then they basically kill themselves, and it starts sweeping the northeastern part of the United States. Mark Wahlberg plays a middle school science teacher who's married to Zooey Deschanel. They're kind of having marital troubles. John Leguizamo is like a math teacher who works with Mark Wahlberg. They're good friends, and they decide they're going to get out of the city. John Leguizamo brings his daughter along, and they kind of set out on this strange adventure. M. Night Shyamalan is not a bad director. I think he has a distinctive style, and I think he shoots things really well. I think from a directing standpoint, he's a fairly good director. I mean, compared to a lot of directors who do work in Hollywood, I think he's one of the better ones. I really do believe that. I think the opening parts of this film in Central Park are actually pretty creepy. There's something very cool and simply creepy about a bunch of people standing still, in Central Park. That's creepy. There's something very creepy about that. I also think the whole part where all the construction workers are jumping off, I think it looks really cool when they're falling. They look kind of like rag dolls, maybe they are, but it looked really cool, and I think those parts were kind of creepy. Unfortunately, once it gets to kind of the gorier parts where people start killing themselves, it falls apart. He has no idea. M. Night Shyamalan doesn't know how to do gore very well, and it's really apparent in this film. The performances in this film are strange, and I think Mark Wahlberg's is the strangest. And I really like Mark Wahlberg. I mean, I adore him in Boogie Nights. I love that movie so much, and I think he's a good actor, but in this movie it's weird. I mean, the opening scene, he's talking to his science class, and he kind of talks like he's talking to students. He's like, that's interesting, why do you think this happens? That's interesting, and I understand that. I'm like, well, he's talking to his science class. Teachers, when they're speaking to a class, when people speak to a public audience, they don't talk the same way they do when they're having a conversation. But Mark Wahlberg carries that over the entire film, like even later on when he's talking. My favorite part of the trailer was when they say we lost contact with him, and he goes, "With whom?" And I always thought it was so funny the way he said it. And that's how his performance is the entire film, and it's strangely entertaining to me, and I enjoyed watching him in this movie, but it didn't fit. It was strange. And this movie just it feels like it's tilted to the left a little bit. It's just I'm like, there's something not right about this movie, and I think that kind of encompasses everything how I felt about this movie. The thing that M. Night fails at, and I think we're starting to realize more and more the farther he gets into his career, is that he is a shitty writer. He's not a good writer. He's not. He can't handle dialogue at all. It's some really bad dialogue in this film. Zooey Deschanel's character is kind of reclusive. And at one point, she hides her emotions. There's a part in the film where she actually says, "Oh, I have trouble showing my emotions too." And I'm like, you don't need to spell it out for us. You don't need to do that. The villain in this film, what's causing it is pretty weak. And I know a lot of people have been like, that's so stupid. And I don't think it's inherently stupid. I think he has a good idea here. And I think it could have worked had it been handled better, but he handles it so poorly that it's not. Also, it's stated very early on in the film what causes this. I kept waiting for there to be a twist. M. Night Shyamalan's so well known for his twist, but there's not. Someone says it at the half-hour mark, and that's actually what happens in the end. There's also some really lame sequences of gore. Like I said, there's a really bad one where this woman's like, "Oh, my sister sent me this video of someone being mauled by a tiger." I'm like, why would your sister record that? Why would she stand there and record that. Also, she had it on an iPhone, and I don't believe iPhones picture message, and I don't think they do stuff like that, which was weird. But I didn't understand why someone would sit there and record this shitty video of someone being mauled by a tiger. The gore looks terrible. The limbs just kind of like pull off. You can tell they were like Velcroed on. They never actually explain why the happening happens. It's implied, but it's never said outright. Also, the ending to this movie, they kind of like, oh, and here's Paris and something happens, and it was so angering. I'm like, but you don't need that. It's such a strange film. I give this movie a 2 out of 5. This movie isn't horrible. I think One Missed Call is a lot worse. I think Deception was worse. I think this movie is about as good as, I think this movie's as good as The Village. Not The Village, but Lady in the Water, which doesn't say much, but I give it a 2 out of 5. This movie's just weird. I didn't understand what he was doing. It feels off. If you guys are liking my reviews, make sure and subscribe. If you have any recommendations on any films you'd like to see me review, leave them in the comments below. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.